You won't believe this, but the night I finally saw Randy for who he truly was began with a bet he made behind my back. A bet about how long I would wait for him, like I wasn't a human being, but some obedient little pet who didn't know any better. And the worst part? He walked into that restaurant proudly with witnesses ready to cash in on his cruelty. I had no idea then that his humiliation was planned. No idea that the man I'd given 3 years of my life to, the man whose car loan I had just finished paying off, had turned me into a joke for his friends. So, when I sat there at the expensive downtown restaurant, dressed up for our anniversary, checking my phone every few minutes, I still believed he was just running late. I still believed he respected me. That belief died the second he walked in 2 hours later with four of his drunk friends trailing behind him. But before that night, there was the beginning. The version of him I met, the one who seemed harmless and easy to talk to. It all started when my apartment flooded because my upstairs neighbor left their bathtub running all weekend. I had to stay with my brother while repairs were made, and Randy was the plumber assigned to fix everything. Every day, he somehow found a new problem to come back for. I thought it was fate. Now I know it was just him dragging out the job to see me again. Back then it felt cute. Now I wonder, how much of it was manipulation sprinkled in charm? He was easy. Easy to talk to, easy to laugh with, easy to trust. And I'm not someone who trusts quickly, but he slid into my life like he'd been rehearsing the role. 8 months in, he moved into my apartment under the excuse that his lease was ending, and financially it just made sense. I ignored what should have been my first warning, his constant pattern of losing jobs or quitting them because his bosses were idiots who didn't appreciate him. He'd leave me rambling Telegram voice messages calling them brainless or pathetic, voice dripping with entitlement and rage. He'd insult his parents too whenever they refused to bail him out financially. I saved all those messages without even knowing why. Like a part of me recognized a storm coming long before the sky turned dark. By year 2, I was paying most of our shared bills. I kept telling myself relationships were about balance, and that one day he'd stabilize and carry his weight. But every time he got close, he sabotaged it with another meltdown, another argument, another dramatic exit from whatever job he had managed to land. He always promised things would turn around soon. They never did. 6 months ago, his precious Mustang, a car he couldn't afford but insisted was necessary, broke down. He cried over it like it was a dying family member. I stepped in because his ability to work depended on it, or so I believed. That one emotional moment cost me nearly $12,000 in payments. Money I thought was for us. Money I thought was building our life together. Last week, I made the final payment. I felt proud. I felt like we had made it past a hurdle. And then came our anniversary. I spent hours getting ready. New dress, hair done, makeup soft but polished. I wanted to feel beautiful for him. I arrived at 7 p.m. sharp. He texted he was running late. Fine. By 7:30, no reply. By 8, I'd called twice, straight to voicemail. The waitress kept approaching gently, clearly pitying me. I kept insisting he was on his way, maybe stuck in traffic. My stomach said otherwise. At 8:45, he finally appeared. Loud, drunk, and flanked by 4 equally drunk friends. And then he did it. He smirked, threw his arms out dramatically toward me, and said loudly enough for half the restaurant to hear, "See? Told you she'd still be here. Like a pathetic puppy. 2 hours and she didn't even leave." His friends cracked up, high-fiving him like he'd won a game. Jake, the friend I always had a bad feeling about, leaned in and said, "Damn, bro, she really is trained. Respect." I didn't react. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just sat there burning silently while he squeezed my cheeks between his fingers. Like I was some pet he owned and said, "This is why she's the best. Most girls would have left. But my girl, she pays my bills and waits around." Then he leaned closer with a smirk dripping with cruelty and said, Did you think this was going to be romantic? That's adorable. We have a poker game tonight. I just needed to make sure you were good for the next payment first." That was when I felt something inside me go quiet, not break, just switch off. He kept degrading me, mocking my body, ordering expensive appetizers while telling the server not to bring me food because I was watching my figure. His friends laughed. Everyone heard, Everyone saw, and he loved it. But the thing about me is, when I get quiet, I'm not defeated. I am planning. I excused myself to the bathroom, looked in the mirror at a woman who had been shrinking herself for years, and made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to give him a scene. I was done giving him anything. I had something he didn't know about. His voice, his words, his rage, his insults, all saved, all archived, all ready. I texted my friend Emma to pick me up in 10 minutes. Then I walked back to the table, smiled, paid for my wine only, told the server the gentleman would be covering the rest, and walked out before Randy even realized I was gone. That was last night. This morning, his belongings are sitting in garbage bags at the local dump. His car lender has evidence of fraud. His parents and boss have voice clips he never thought anyone else would hear. And my phone shows 78 missed calls, all unanswered. I woke up the next morning in this strange, heavy silence. Not sadness, just clarity. The kind of clarity that hits after years of ignoring your own instincts. My phone was vibrating nonstop, lighting up with call after call, but I didn't touch it. I made coffee, sat on the couch, and let the truth of everything settle in my chest like a final puzzle piece snapping into place. And that's when the real story began. As I stared at my phone, watching the missed calls climb 18, 27, 43, 78, I remembered something important. I had access to Randy's entire digital life, not because I stole anything, not because I hacked anything, but because he gave me every password himself, his email, his cloud storage, his banking app, his Instagram, his Telegram, his Netflix, Spotify, iCloud, all of it. I opened a notebook and made a list of everything of his that I controlled. And the more I wrote, the calmer I became. For the first time in years, I didn't feel helpless. I didn't feel small. I didn't feel controlled. I felt powerful, while Randy was leaving me rage-filled voicemails like, "Where the hell are you?" And "You seriously ditched me with the bill?" And this was literally a joke. "Chill." I was sitting cross-legged on my couch like a woman preparing for a deeply satisfying spiritual cleanse. I logged into his email first. That's where I saw it. The truth that made everything crystal clear. He had planned the entire humiliation, days in advance, and with his friends. There were threads of messages between him and Jake discussing how funny it would be if they showed up late. How he would test how long I'd wait. How they bet I wouldn't leave. How he wanted to see me cling to the table like a desperate little puppy. Line after line, detail after detail, clear as glass, like they were planning a prank on someone who didn't matter. But then I found something even worse. Emails with a coworker named Amber. Flirty, late night, attached photos, inside jokes. After work, plans he somehow always forgot to mention to me. My hands were shaking, but not with grief, with adrenaline. 3 years. 3 years I paid bills, held him together emotionally, covered for him, apologized for him, believed in him, and he turned me into entertainment. Then I opened his cloud storage. He had saved voice recordings of conversations, mostly his workplace rants, but some were about me. Recordings of him laughing with his friends about how I paid for everything. Recordings calling me his personal ATMs. Recordings saying he'd trade up eventually. Recordings mocking the way I tried to make our relationship work. It was like watching my last 3 years flash before my eyes, except this time I was seeing the director's cut. Unedited, unfiltered, real. I sat there with my coffee going cold as I listened to the man I loved tear me apart in his own voice. And when I finished listening, all I felt was something sharp and electric snap awake inside me. So I took those voice clips, the ones from his boss, the ones about his parents, the ones about me, and sent them exactly where they belonged. No threats, no messages, no explanation, just his voice. His boss got the files where Randy called him incompetent, stupid, useless, and lazy. His parents got the files where Randy mocked their finances, insulted their intelligence, and bragged that he manipulated them for money. I didn't fabricate anything. I didn't twist anything. I didn't add commentary. I simply forwarded the truth. Then I called the bank handling the Mustang payment. That was the moment everything clicked into motion. The payment I made last week hadn't fully cleared yet. All I had to do was explain I'd been pressured into paying for a vehicle that wasn't mine. They requested documentation. I had plenty screenshots, texts, recordings. The bank representative put me on hold for a long time. When he returned, his tone was different. Serious, sympathetic. Your payment will be reversed while we investigate, and if what you're showing us is accurate, repossession is likely. I hung up the phone feeling lighter than I had in years. Meanwhile, Randy kept calling, angry, then fake concerned, then back to angry, then love bombing, then guilt tripping, then playing the victim. Every narcissistic cycle in the book within 2 hours. I didn't answer a single call. I packed his things. Not carefully, not neatly, not lovingly. Just shoveled them into bags. 15 bags. 3 years of excuses, lies, and emotional labor condensed into 15 sad, sagging garbage bags by my front door. By the time I finished, the bank had officially reversed the payment, and a tow truck was already on its way to his apartment. I know because Randy's panicked texts started coming in like fireworks. Why is there a tow truck here? What did you do? You can't do this! Answer me now. Oh my God, please just talk to me. The truth is, everything that happened afterward felt like karma finally catching up. Slow at first, then all at once, like the universe had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. In the days that followed, Randy's world didn't just crack. It collapsed. And it wasn't because I ruined anything. I didn't lie. I didn't fabricate. I didn't twist reality. I simply revealed the reality he had been hiding behind charm, excuses, and manipulation. The bank repossessed his Mustang within 48 hours. His boss forwarded the voice clips to HR, and HR escalated it to upper management. His parents received the messages and realized their son had been using every person in his life like a personal ATM. His lies couldn't stretch far enough to cover everything unraveling at once. But here's the beautiful, poetic part. I didn't have to lift a finger after that. His own behavior did all the work. The men who laughed with him in the restaurant, half of them stopped replying to his calls when they realized I had the receipts, literal receipts of their involvement. 2 of them blocked him entirely because HR had contacted them for statements. Jake, the one who mocked me the loudest, tried to backtrack and pretend he wasn't even there. Amber from work, she found out he'd been messaging 3 other girls the same week he'd been flirting with her. She left him, got back with him, left him again. A dizzying cycle that felt painfully familiar. And Randy? He spiraled. Hard. He tried to paint himself as the victim, told everyone I had gone psycho, that I had hacked his accounts, that I stole from him. But he forgot something important. You can't call someone a liar when every lie you told is recorded in your own voice. The fallout was so severe that even his brother distanced himself. His parents stopped giving him money. His job put him on probation, then terminated him for misconduct and unprofessional behavior. His car was repossessed, then sold, then charged back to him because the auction price didn't cover the remaining balance. He had nothing. No transportation, no income, no stability, no one left to manipulate. And me? I rebuilt slowly, intentionally, beautifully. I changed my locks, changed my number, moved to a new apartment that felt like fresh air, adopted a cat who refuses to let any man get within 5 feet of her. Icon behavior. Saved every dollar that used to disappear into his Mustang. Started therapy. Made new friends. Traveled alone for the first time in my life. Learned that peace isn't quiet. It's the absence of chaos. 6 months later, when I added up everything I had spent on him, rent, bills, groceries, car payments, loans, it came out to over $30,000. But that number didn't sting the way it used to, because I realized something. That money bought me a life lesson most people don't learn until it's too late. It bought me clarity, strength, self-respect, boundaries, and the courage to walk away. One day, out of nowhere, Randy emailed me from a new address. It was long, rambling, full of excuses. He wanted just 5 minutes to talk. He wasn't himself. He didn't mean any of it. He deserved closure. He had changed. I didn't reply. Closure is not a conversation, it's a decision. And I made mine the moment I stood up from that restaurant table and walked out. My story didn't end with revenge, it ended with rebirth. Now, months later, when I think about that night, I don't feel anger or humiliation or grief. I feel gratitude. Because if Randy hadn't shown me exactly who he was in the loudest, cruelest way, I might still be shrinking myself to fit inside a life that never valued me. So here's the truth, the real truth. Sometimes the most painful betrayal becomes the doorway to the strongest version of yourself. Sometimes losing someone is exactly how you find yourself again. And sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to go back.